Alright guys, next video in the series talking about this book, Recovery by Russell Brand. It's a great book, all about the 12 steps. Um, each step has some writing exercises after it, and those exercises, those questions, have really helped me out a lot. So definitely highly recommended book. I'll put a link in the description below. You can pick up a copy from Amazon for yourself. And today, I just want to talk about the introduction to the book, because for me, that sets up the whole book. Really, the reasons behind the 12 steps, how they're going to help you, and a lot of the causes of my addiction, right? My alcoholism, in my case. So I have a lot of notes, and yeah, let's get started. So in the very beginning, like right from the start, Russell Brand talks about how we're filling our days with temporary fixes. Whether they be your smartphone, right? Your social media, or drink, or drugs, or sex, or relationships, or food, or work. Whatever it is, like all these things that we're using to fill a void, right? We're trying to get some sort of pleasure out of them, but ultimately they fail in that regard. So one of the quotes that really stuck out for me says, "I believe that what the 12 steps and their accompanying philosophy will provide is nothing less than a solution to the dissatisfaction of living." And that hit me hard, because I have been dissatisfied with my life and my environment and all this stuff for a long time. And part of my drinking was to try to find a solution for that dissatisfaction, and it obviously didn't work out. So the 12 steps are, according to Russell Brand, the solution to the dissatisfaction of living. I love that phrase, the dissatisfaction of living. And there's a question that he weaves through this book, and it is, when are you planning to become the person you were born to be? Right? Now, he's saying that recovery, to him, the term recovery, means recovering the person you were meant to be, right, that you were born to be. And that's the question. When are you planning to become the person you were born to be? Well, hopefully right now. Right? Start embracing these 12 steps to get on the road to becoming that person you were meant to be. It says, we adapt to the misery of an unloving home, of unfulfilling work, of empty friendships, and lacquered alienation. And human beings are very adaptable. We can adapt to some really horrific circumstances, whether they be in actual prison, in prison of your mind, whatever. We adapt to and accept all these really negative situations, whether they be, like I said, an unloving home or unfulfilling work, all that stuff. So he says the 12-step program will change the life of anyone who embraces it. Embraces, right? So you really have to do the work, and it's a lot of work. And I just finished my 5th step, and the 4th step, the inventory, was it was grinding, and it was uncomfortable, and it was sad and maddening at times, and I know why a lot of people stop at that step, because taking a look at who you really are and how you behaved, and some of the impetus for this really bad behavior, it's not easy, and even in the big book where it says, rarely have we seen anyone fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Again, thoroughly. You got to embrace it, and that's the difficult part. To actually make the effort and put in the work. It's not easy. It really isn't. But I've seen the end result in a lot of people whose lives have turned around and are much happier now. So embrace the 12 steps, and hopefully things will work out. You gotta, like I said, put in the work. Here's a a couple of questions that really, again, hit me kind of hard. It says, do you have the sense that something is missing, a feeling in your gut that you are not good enough? And that is a feeling that I've had really my whole life. Feeling that I'm not good enough, that there's something missing, and that's why I try to fill that void with booze or with some really dependent relationships throughout my life. I got my identity by being someone's husband, somebody's boyfriend, right? And he says each addictive pursuit has been an act of peculiar faith that the action will solve a problem. So for me, the action of drinking to excess, would solve that problem of loneliness, or solve that problem of me fitting in, or not feeling good enough, or feeling like an outcast. That's what I thought. I had that faith in the booze that it was going to make everything better, when in actuality it made everything worse. Another question Russell Brand poses in the introduction says, do you sometimes question whether you even have the option or the right to be happy? And when I read that first, I had to stop, and I was like, damn, there have been many, many times in my life where I thought, I don't deserve this. I don't deserve, this really great job I had, or this house, or, the woman I'm with, or, whatever it is, the car I'm driving. I don't deserve this. I'm not good enough, right? And I don't deserve to be happy. I should be miserable because I think deep down I felt like I was a really bad person. I've said that to people, mostly women. Like, hey, I'm a bad person. You need to just run away from me as fast as you can because I will just ruin your life. I've said that to them, to plenty of women, plenty of times. And again, it comes from that feeling of worthlessness, of not being good enough, and not thinking that I deserve to be happy. So it's it's a sickness, having those thoughts in your head. And I've talked about my, depression and mental illness before, but this is really helping me zero in and focus on the cause of all these problems, this depression and all this other stuff, and alcoholism. So for me, it says, what are we doing when we're drinking? Who there do we serve? What's the plan? Right? So when I'm drinking, who am I really serving? I'm really serving that fear of mine, that fear that I'm not good enough, that fear that I don't deserve to be happy. And living in fear is it's become, again, you adapt. Like I said, human beings adapt to this stuff. So I've become accustomed to having this constant fear that that I'm not good enough, or that things are going to go wrong, or that I don't deserve it. I was asked by my sponsor the other day. He said, what percentage of your day do you spend in fear? And right away I just said, 80%, right? And he said, wow, you're afraid even when you're asleep? And I said, oh, you mean just waking hours? And he goes, yeah, just waking hours. I go, 92% then. It's like I'm just constantly in this state of fear and anxiety that things are going to go bad, that I'm not going to make it, that I'm going to die alone, all that stuff. So, that's all these questions, all these quotes that are coming out of this, just the introduction, have really forced me to look at who I am and the cause of all this stuff, and it all comes down to fear, really, for me. A lot of it's ego too, but I think ego is just this false pride, I should say, is just the flip side of fear, right? Because I'm afraid I'm not good enough. I don't think I deserve to be happy, so I'm going to project this, this cocky image of I deserve everything and I'm going to get it all, and I'm better than you, and all that stuff. And again, it all stems from fear. So, last one here. He says, now what happens when you don't follow the compulsion? Right? For me, the compulsion to drink. What's at the other side of your need to drink to excess? The only way to find out is to not do it, and that is a novel act of faith. I mean, that's the 12 steps right there, really, in a nutshell. Look, what I've done before, obviously, is not working, and it hasn't worked for a long time. Um, so, if what you're doing is not working, you should try something else, right? And I remember this guy told me one time. I was kind of like talking about how I screwed up before, in the last couple of years. How I just ruined everything. My freelancing career, my relationships, my health, all that stuff. And he said, look, nobody comes into AA on a winning streak. And that's true. You really got to be beaten down and have lost a lot of faith in yourself and in the world in general, I think, in order to reach out for help and decide that you got to change your life. So, yeah, trying to find out what's on the other side of that compulsion is I think, what all these 12 steps are about. So, I've had slips in the last couple of months, but I'm doing my best to stay sober and to really find out what's on the other side. To have faith that not only will these steps work to keep me sober, but that sobriety will work just in general. So my sponsor was telling me, he goes, look, I know you want all these things right now. You want the business to take off. You want your finances to be set. You want this relationship to get back to where it was. He goes, but I'm here to tell you, if you just focus on staying sober and being sober, all that other stuff will come to pass, right? Your finances will get better. Your business will grow and be successful. Your relationship will come back and it'll be better than before. And that is an act of faith, a novel act of faith, like Russell Brand says, because I've not tried that before. I've not tried to be sober and see what happens, right? I've only made the effort to drink and put too much of myself, my identity, in a relationship, and it hasn't worked. And at some point, you got to do something else. So I am putting my faith in these 12 steps, in the Alcoholics Anonymous program. And it's not easy because I am a control freak and I can't let things go. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting journey going forward. But again, I'm putting my faith in God, in the 12 steps, in AA, and to a certain extent in Russell Brand. So that's all I got for today. Remember to like and share this video, subscribe to the channel. I'm going to go through each step of the 12 steps of recovery based on this book. And yeah, see you tomorrow.